Sure. Oh,
Make
go Scott.
one quick point on that, Joy, in the sense that the public market professionals are also going to be very important and critical, even though they've already built out a large part of their internal teams. Because if you think about some of the private assets, let's just take credit, for example. We could be setting up credit platforms where we utilize our in-house credit expertise from our fixed income team to work on private credit because it's just a natural extension of their skills. So I think there's going to be synergy within CalSTRS as well. And I think that they're going to continue to play a role and may play even a greater role than we think in the collaborative model.
I'd love to make sure that we keep hearing about those opportunities because in my mind, it has been focused more on the asset classes, Chris, you mentioned, but knowing that we'll be able to draw on resources across the team, I think is great and important for us to know.
Great. Lynn.
Thank you. I really appreciate this presentation. I think it helps to clarify a lot of questions that I had about this approach. And I'm just curious, I mean, you've kind of given us a sense of where you want to go with setting up benchmarks for this new compensation program. Are we far enough along with implementing the collaborative model, or do you expect that the benchmarks will change as we get into it a little bit more?
I think we're far along to do that, but keeping in mind that we're still a few months away from starting to get at that specific issue. And then the other thing I'll just add is that as some committee members have seen over the last several years, just because we make an adjustment to a specific measure today doesn't mean we're going to keep it locked in, for years. And it's something that, we review it every 2-3 years and make sure that it still makes sense and whether it needs to be tweaked. So, but I think to answer your question directly, I think we are ready to start looking at it. And again, we're not, we have benchmarks to look at in terms of similar comparisons, right? Like we're not starting from scratch.
Okay, thank you.
Gail?
Thank you. I was going to mention this in item 5 when we talk more about the overall plan, but I think another benefit of the collaborative model and the cost report specifically is it'll feed into kind of CalHR and your ability to hire people at different levels. And I think there's a complicated aspect to that because I think sort of educating everyone around the state budget process and the savings. And so I think as soon as we can get a more precise baseline cost report that doesn't just compare it to other funds, but are actual costs that you're talking about, I think it'll feed into other parts of the organization where you can actually hire the folks you need to hire. And I think there will be some tension in that, just given state service. So I think that the benefit, Luis, and I think this is incredibly helpful, is not only on kind of a forward-looking model, but also on a forward-looking organizational structure where you get really high-quality people that can manage some internally too. But I think there'll be a lot of education around that to the budget committees in the legislature and even Department of Finance. So I appreciate that.
I was thank you for that, Gil, because I was actually going to respond to one of Joy's comments where, like, I know if I had to redo this slide, I would tweak it where we've done this whole slide deck around the movement towards the collaborative and that, but the truth is that there's going to be a cultural shift around getting up to Gil's point, getting everybody to think about net return. So even those that are not going to be touching on the collaborative model side. And frankly, if you think about the journey, like what a journey, like, 7-8 years ago, it was in the high 90s of a percentage of assets internally managed. And now it's around kind of low 60s or so. Millions of dollars have already been saved, but to Joy's point, most the big chunks of money and savings is going to be coming from this piece. But I think organizationally, I think our firm would like to work with the committee and make sure that there's almost this cultural shift where, to Chris's point, everybody's thinking about net returns, and I think that's where you're getting at too. So it's not just those that are aligned to the collaborative model.
And Gail, we are, I think part of our work plan for comp is, you want to talk about that a little bit with the CalHR?
I was going to speak to it. In May, we did present the committee with the compensation work plan, which includes the compensation review, but also behind the scenes, Human Resources is working with Chris and Scott on assessing our current investment management classifications
and updating those. And those will more than likely be returning in November. Whatever additional layers we need because of the gaps that we recognize will be coming before the committee to ask for salary ranges for those investment management positions. Yet to be named, but yeah, we're working on that. So I could definitely send you the link to that item. That gives a little bit more
It
history.
was in May, is that?
It was in May, yeah, during the comp committee.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else, Elise?
Not on this point.
Okay,
I do-
okay.
I do have a few more slides.
Okay.
Okay. So this next slide actually touches on Gail's point, and it's something that, you know, we talked extensively in May, and you know, so, you know, if I look at, you know, I've seen the transformation of organizations that have gone down this path now for about 26 years, right? And it's interesting, I was reading an article that was released yesterday of one fund that we've worked with over the year for many years that today is now actually at 122% fully funded, and kind of moving towards this model, you know, was a key part of that. If you think about, you know, if you really kind of dig through everything as to what the most important factors are, and I'm sure somebody in this room is going to disagree with me, but from my own personal experience, it touches on Gail's point, which is it's going to be all about getting the right people, right? And so, you know, it's going to be somewhat no different than all the work that has gone in over the years of selecting the right external fund managers, and you know, the pain points of when you get that wrong. It's really no different than on the hiring side. So, you know, that's not our job, thankfully. That'll be your job and the team's job. Our job is to make sure that you have the right tools to get the right kind of people, that you have the right kind of systems to measure them, et cetera. But that's really at the end, the true heart of it is making sure that you've got the right talent to make this plan successful. And so, you know, this slide just kind of touches on that, and touches on kind of having, you know, some measurements in place to make sure that you've got kind of an evaluation of that talent. So I'm sure some of you look at this and start to sweat. I know Melissa and I do sweat when we see this and that, but so there, you know, as I started this conversation, you know, we feel, and I say we, I think myself and Melissa feel that it's important that we work together to make sure that the board, the committee, and the investment team at the end of the day has everything they need from us to be successful come implementation of, you know, starting the hiring process and all that. So we're really, you know, purposely working backwards from that. So if we don't meet our timelines, we're basically pushing out their timelines. We're pushing out the ability to get more savings for stakeholders sooner. So that's you know, kind of a part of it. Do we feel that it's doable? Absolutely, right? But we're going to need to make sure that we're doing our job of making sure that some of the new directors are fully educated on all the work that's been done for the last few years on this, and just make sure that we've got good flow of communication and response time, et cetera. I really think that the exercise, the deep dive exercise that we're going to go through on the compensation strategy is going to be extremely helpful. It's going to give people like Joy and Gail opportunities to ask, you know, kind of lots of questions around, you know, rationale of what's taken place and why we're doing certain things. So it will kind of streamline a lot of what's being done. As a protective covenant, what we've said is, you know, and we talked to Sharon about this and Harry, of potentially adding in an extra meeting. I say potentially, but I'm pretty much thinking it's going to have to happen. But you know, we think it's doable. I have no more hair left to lose, so it's okay. And the other thing I will say is that I think we've already proven that our group and Melissa's group have actually, in partnering with the investment committee and investment consultants, have been able to do that successfully and timely in the past. And so it's not like there's a new learning curve to go up there.
Can I highlight a couple things, Louise?
Absolutely.
Because to Gail's question, I know she knows more than most of us know about the state civil service structure, but we are going to have an educational session because many of us don't understand the complexity of it. So, yeah, Melissa. So that's kind of part of this, kind of the year's work plan, is to educate the board and the public on the state's civil service structure, partly because there are challenges that poses with hiring, with attracting the kind of folks we want for the collaborative model, so.
And we've talked about it as a group, and Gail obviously knows it. You know, the challenge we're going to have is like there's going to be the potential for significant savings, but unfortunately, we're going to have to work within the reality of the governance structure that CalSTRS operates in. And again, I think I hope, you know, based on prior experiences in other similar situations, if we can show that the model is working, it should make it easier, right? It's an easier conversation to be had, to say, look, you know, yes, we need to have the ability to increase or pay this position a little bit more, but here's the fact-based research and that we can show you that we've saved 10 times that, right?
Great.
So really, this last slide is kind of more specific to the approvals, but the key meat of it will be over the next couple of months, where we'll work with you on the compensation strategy. I do think that that's going to be a lot of the heavy lifting.
We don't have a meeting, don't we have nothing in September?
No,
Okay.
our next meeting is November.
Okay.
So, you know, other than that, I think that we have had a number of conversations in education around the long-term incentive, so that will be somewhat helpful. I need to make sure I do a good job of bringing up to speed some of the new directors around that. And again, I do think that it's realistic that we're going to need an additional meeting to get that through.
Gail, you punched in and came out. Did you want to?
Sorry, I was just trying to.
That's okay. Did you want? Okay. No worries.
Sorry.
Okay. So you're good. Okay.
So that's
Okay.
really the roadmap and for the next several months. And you know, I think that a lot of the work that's gone on by the committee for the last 2-3 years, I think is going to help kind of make this process go more smoothly. So
Yeah. Great. Sounds good. And we'll be approving the work plan shortly. So that's great. Steve, do you have any? I'm just going to have Steve McCourt come up and just, you've heard the previous conversation with Chris and Scott and Deborah, and I'm just kind of curious if Makita has an opinion about the big picture on compensation, and you have any remarks you want to share with the committee today.
Thank you. Steve McCourt with Makita Investment Group, the consultant to the investment committee. Most of what I'll comment on is kind of reinforces what you've heard from Louis. First of all, I want to highlight, as Louis did, that Makita works for the board. So to whatever extent we can be helpful in this process, we're happy to collaborate with Louis and you on this important endeavor. I would highlight that compensation is important for lots of reasons, but probably most important because over time it contributes either positively or negatively to culture in the organization. So when you look at compensation structures, try to think about how those structures will change either for the positive or the negative, the culture of the organization, which my belief is you have a very favorable culture right now. Second item I would highlight is Chris spoke about kind of the nature of the collaborative model, and we certainly endorse the idea that as the cost report does on an annual basis, you should be looking at the way your assets are invested in sort of the broadest systemic level that historically your fund and others have allocated assets to outside asset managers that in turn have managed assets for you. And you should be calculating the cost and expenses of doing so. What I would highlight is the migration towards a collaborative model is not a binary event. You weren't non-collaborative yesterday, and you're going to be collaborative tomorrow. This is an incremental process of looking at different important activities that you can take back in-house from areas where historically you've outsourced to expensive counterparties. And so with that, I would consider compensation as well as being something that you should look at fluidly over time, because the way in which CalSTRS is collaborative a year from now might be very different than the way CalSTRS is collaborative 5 years from now and 10 years from now. So I think you'll see that as it evolves over time, and so I would just be prepared to be flexible on the compensation policy front as well, because the types of people and processes that you need to go through to execute the plan tomorrow will be different than 5 years from now, which will be different from 10 years from now. I think as you migrate towards a collaborative model, Sharon sort of hinted at this a bit. One of the issues that's related to compensation policy is sort of how to deal with accountability as well. One of the nice things about outsourcing a lot of investment activity is if it doesn't go well, you just fire that group and hire somebody else.
Fun, Steve, was defund.
Yeah, so that's
Don't
that's harder to do once you internalize things. And the final thing I would say is to you as a compensation committee and to the board as a whole. I think CalSTRS has done a fantastic job of quantifying the costs involved in, at every level, investing assets of your plans, which is almost a prerequisite to kind of going down this road of the collaborative model. But like all things investment oriented, I'll be sort of emphasizing with you to have patience in terms of looking at the cost savings and the investment results from the collaborative model. The cost report is very comprehensive. It's very precise, but a lot of the costs are lumpy on an annual basis. And so while we and I think staff would be very confident that you're going to see meaningful cost savings over a 5 to 7 year period, if you have a really strong investment year, next year you're going to see a cost increase because costs increase right now when assets do well and performance is good. So just have patience in terms of looking at multiple data points over long periods of time and the trends of where costs are going and the trends of where performance is going. Because this is something, it's not a binary thing. This is an evolution and a migration towards being more collaborative. And I'll hold my comments there, and I'm happy to take any questions that board members have.
That's a good way to, I think that's a good way to end the conversation. I mean, the themes I keep hearing are continuing to grow our positive culture. We have a great culture. We want to continue to grow that culture, and I think that can only, that'll happen as we move more towards internal management in this collaborative model, having flexibility, because we know things are going to change over time, and we're trying something different. We're going to have to be flexible, accountability in our cost reporting, and making sure we have visibility on cost savings, and patience, which I think we're pretty good at CalSTRS. We're pretty slow, patient. So thanks for that, Steve. Thank you, Luis. Thanks, Melissa. Great. So that's the information item. That's the big picture conversation, but obviously you've seen in our work plan that we're going to continue these conversations throughout the year. So thanks, everyone. Any public comment from item number 5? Seeing none. Item 6 is a review for information acts. Sade, do we have any information requests?
Melissa sending the link to Ms. Miller for May's, yeah, I can put that on.
Great, thank you. Members from the public that want to comment on that? Seeing none. Item 7 is our draft agenda for the next committee meeting, which is in November, correct, Melissa? Okay. Any comments on the draft?
No,
Wanna highlight
it's going to
anything?
be another pretty meaty item with Luis coming back. I think what I heard now until November, he's going to be having some follow-up with the committee members, get feedback, and then come back in November and provide proposals, recommendations around some of the components that we discussed here, long-term incentive, peer groups, et cetera. So that,
Also, I think if we're gonna add a meeting, we should try and get, not right now, but we should
Right.
start to get some dates on a calendar.
Definitely.
Because those months are tough sometimes to schedule, so let's think of when,
can send an
at least
email
for
out
the
to the
work plan, it really makes sense. And then we'll come back and do a email poll on calendars.
Good. Any other questions on the draft agenda for November? Members of the public that want to speak on the draft agenda of November? Because we,
I apologize. I just got to thinking about this, and I wanted to talk about, for a minute, about the new model. You know, teachers and.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm Pat Geyer, retired teacher. Teachers are used to having a set, and state workers a set compensation. And you're asking them to be a little bit like independent businessmen. If you sell the item, then you get paid. And this is going to be a big change in outlook and attitude that you're going to need to do some education with, both for teachers who aren't used to that and when they see this, and for your staff. It's going to be a challenge. So good luck.
thanks, Pat. We know you'll be walking with us through the process, so thank you for your comments, Pat. Opportunities for additional statements from the public. Any other additional public statements? Seeing none, great. Compensation is adjourned, and we will come back into the regular board meeting in 10 minutes, so at 9:50.